Hey there, friends and enemies, Joper here again, and recently we got a bunch of new information about combat in Dragon Age The Veilguard, and I have to honestly say I am very excited about what we've seen so far for several reasons. I know there was a lot of worry in the community when we initially heard about the changes to what they are doing with combat, reducing the amount of companions that we can have with us from 3 to 2, and also changing it so some of the previous ways that we engage with combat were no longer going to be a thing. However, I find that what they've done seems to be an improvement. I haven't got hands on, but we have looked quite a bit at a couple extended gameplay previews. Now, a few of them have spoilers, so that's why I'm showing you a bit older gameplay so that way you guys don't get spoiled. I know a lot of people are trying to go in blind, which is perfectly understandable. But for me, some of the changes they're making, I think, are going to add additional textures and flavors to the combat that I think, I hope people don't overlook. And what I say about that is the combinations between Rook and then the companions or the companions themselves that you can set up seem to be a lot more interesting and engaging than anything we've gotten in the past, like combo moves. We got finishers essentially that they can do, and I really enjoy that because while I didn't use the tactical modes in the past, personally, I do like that you can just open up a screen and essentially command your allies to do a certain combination, target certain enemies, and it's really quick in the way that they do that as well. I do like how many options there are now that we look at all of the skill tree and how in-depth it can be once you have a full team together of Rook and 2 companions. So that's one thing I'm incredibly excited about. It looks so engaging that you can really customize it. And essentially you can run multiple of the same class in a way that you really haven't been before. We have one less companion, but it does feel like the classes that you get for the different characters and your Rook are going to have a lot more versatility from the skill trees that we've seen so far, which I think is something that can often be missing. Like, you have the dual blade rogue character and they play a certain playstyle and that's it. Whereas now it looks like the mage can play a frontline, active, aggressive mage playstyle. Maybe have some overshields as well, some magic shields and that kind of thing. And then you'll also have a support long distance mage in the background as well. You don't just have to play your typical fighter mage rogue composition, which I think has long held back Dragon Age. The nice thing has always been you have the fourth option, which is always a flex. But for me, it always seemed like the team was disadvantaged if you didn't have at least one of each role, and I hope that's not going to be as much the case, so that way I can really dive into playing 3 of the same class potentially together. Now that might be a little bit overboard, but I do think that the interactions between the different characters, the different combinations, look to be incredibly impressive and also add a lot to combat that I didn't know was necessarily missing. So some other things to note that I thought were very, very interesting are also that in general, combat is going to flow. You can essentially set it and forget it at times, but only use that tactical pause option where you distribute commands when you are really necessary. You will have a hotbar as well that will allow you to pick and choose what types of options you want to do. You're not controlling any of the companions necessarily, but you can guide them in a way. And then apparently if they don't like you, they might not follow you directly or something like that they had mentioned, which I find to be incredibly fascinating and will encourage you to really have all of the companions in good favor as much as possible, which is very difficult. Oftentimes when you make decisions in Dragon Age games, you're going to get some people happy and upset others, so we'll have to see how that all plays out. I also like a lot of the utility that we get. For example, Davrim, when he has his Griffin companion, who does play a part in combat, which I think is really, really fascinating. It looks awesome, honestly. I would love to have a Griffin as my Rook player as well, but that's just not an option. And so while you can't control Davern and the Griffin, you can actually essentially command them to do as you want, which I think is going to be very, very cool. Now, other things to keep a note, they showed off some of the magic gameplay. I think the spells look a lot more refined than we've gotten in past Dragon Age games, and they do look very cool in my opinion. Plus, they showed off, again, different ways to play as the mage, whether it's up close and personal, more of an aggressive frontline mage character, and then you also have a long distance option as well, where you can essentially, I've been considering running a mage myself and then having Davern and Tash just do all the heavy lifting up front for me, so that way I can sit back and pick off enemies. I find that to be a playstyle that will be very, very funny. And those are probably my two favorite companions at this point, from just the Griffin aspect, and also I'm a big fan of the Canary. So I do think that's going to be my initial team composition. But they also talked about how when you're taking on companion quests, you will actually not always have that companion with you. So you'll have the option to have other companions, and then that companion will join you. It does look like at times during combat, you'll also have a additional NPC who you don't control as well that we saw. So I think that's going to be something that I want to see how that all works out. Maybe it's just during main quests. Maybe your companion who is on a companion quest will join you as like a additional NPC. So you do have those 4 characters in total on the squad. And yeah, just all in all, very excited. A lot of stuff to look forward to. I think the combat so far looks incredibly good, and after an initial impression where a lot of people were disappointed with the look and feel of the companions, I think that's something that I never understood, because BioWare has a history of introducing characters in that way. But ultimately, I think the game has gone from looking okay to looking tremendous after every single preview we've gotten. They're showing off a lot, which I think is a good sign because they're confident in what they're showing, but also is a little worrisome because I don't want them to give away everything, you know what I'm saying? So I think at the end of the day, I'm really excited. I'm really looking forward to what they have in store for us. Can't wait to get hands on myself. Unfortunately, I'm not one of these who is getting an early play test. Obviously, I'm a small channel, so hopefully in the future that might happen. But anyway, my name is Jopa. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that kind of good stuff. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.